Okay, good afternoon. It's 1:01, February 11th, Thursday afternoon. This is a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners. On the agenda today, we have a presentation of the semi-annual treasurer's report for approval and posting. And then we will go into a few topics on trail progress and projects proposed, as well as an update and a discussion with Central Colorado Conservancy. Do my fellow commissioners have any comments or requests on any changes to the agenda?
Oh, this looks great. Thank you.
Okay.
None for me, Sarah. I do want to be cognizant of our time as we have a Board of Health meeting at 2. Just FYI.
Thank you. That's a good reminder. Yeah, and good note for our guests. This meeting will have a hard stop at 2. So if we can get through, and hopefully everybody can have equal and at least adequate time. I will post that in the chat here then. And let's see. So first on, and I'm not sure Patrick is here, but we have our semi-annual treasurer's report. I don't have any other comments on this. I'm not sure if Commissioner Marcella has anything for us. Or
I do not.
Okay.
I don't have any questions or comments on the semi-annual report, and it will be published in the paper prior to February 21st.
And no comments here either. It looks pretty straightforward. Just that 1-page summary.
Great. Same here. I'll entertain a motion acknowledging the report and requesting that the clerk post that as we are required to by statute.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None from me. I think it's just a pretty straightforward summary for posting. So.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, aye.
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 Very good. Thank you very much. Quickly moving through that. Oh, I guess I did skip on community informational items. Apologies, commissioners. Does anybody have some community informational items to update us with this afternoon?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, I don't have anything here. I think I'm eager to get through some of these conversations and things that have been in progress. So, all right, without further ado then, we have Mike Conlin here, and first on our agenda is, or second on the agenda, sorry, is an update and a discussion on the Crossroads Trail project. This is a project linking County Road 10 to the Hayden Pond Recreation Area. It's a project that was discussed and identified through Lake County Open Space Initiative, or LCOSI, and it also aids in the support of the development of regional trail connections, specifically with Stage and Rail Trail, and the 16 and 16 from the governor's list way back when, and also linking the Fremont Pass Trail development as well for the regional connectivity. Mike Conlin, do you want to give us an update?
Certainly. Given the time constraints, any one of these topics could be discussed at great length, but we'll try to keep this as short as possible. We're currently in the CDOT permitting process. It's important to note that when we talk about the CDOT permit, we're not really talking about one 3-page fill-in-the-blank permit. There are at least 11 different permits that are required. For example, we had to get a special use permit even to walk on the property to bring consultants out there. So this is a very complex project as far as permitting is concerned. I'd like to give a brief update on where we are on the 3 major elements, which are the environmental clearances, the engineering, and the specialist reports. The engineering was completed and submitted to CDOT. for review, and we received one comment from Staff Bridge regarded an erosion problem that exists on the CDOT property, and requested our response as to how we would design the trail around that. That has been revised. It's been submitted to CDOT, so we should be good on engineering. Environmental clearances, I sent you a synopsis of environmental and specialist review. For the most part, we have cleared all of those. For example, visual, wildlife, wetland. Those have all been submitted and we've gotten positive responses. We still have a couple, and I'll explain those in just a minute, that we still need to resolve. As far as specialist reports, these are areas like traffic control, underground utilities, right-of-ways, etc. And we've basically cleared all of those. What's still outstanding is the cultural resource work that was done by Centennial Archaeological. The Board of Commissioners just okayed their request for a change order, and that should release the report to CDOT for their clearance. They will take approximately 2 weeks to review it before sending it to SHPO. SHPO then has 30 days to respond. So we should be within about a month and a half of clearance on that. Their synopsis of their work, it would indicate that we shouldn't have any problems. The other ones that we need, it's also important to note that some of these sub permits, so to speak, such as the stormwater management plan, require certifications that neither Roger nor myself have. And so we've had to do workarounds on those. For example, on the transportation planning, or the traffic control plan, we were required to have a traffic control specialist if we had to move forward with that section of the permit. We have had discussions with CDOT and asserted that it was not necessary. They have since conceded. So, some of these we have cleared, but one of the ones that remains outstanding is the stormwater management plan. That requires a certified swamp stormwater management plan administrator. We've been in discussions with CDOT. We have submitted the information necessary, but we do not have the certification. They are working on seeing if they can do the certification internally. So that one is still outstanding. The other major one that's outstanding is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit, which is a pre-construction notification and a nationwide 42 permit. That requires the same cultural resource inventory that we're waiting for from Centennial. That's a condition of that permit, and we still need the crossing agreement between Aurora and Lake County to guarantee that we have the right to install the culvert on the trail alignment. So those are primarily where we are. We have been told that if we get concurrence, and Emily Blender has requested concurrence from each of the entities, the specialists and the environmental and engineering, most of which we've already received. If we receive that concurrence, we can bypass the 30, 60, and 90% level reports and meetings and go straight to permitting. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Obviously, there are still some things. The Army Corps of Engineers permit, for example, can't even be submitted until we get the cultural resource work and the clearance from Aurora. So there are still some things that are delaying getting the final submittal in for review and authorization. But at this point, it looks like we could still plan on construction in the summer of 2021. So that's good news. The second piece of what I'd like to talk about, I have sent in to the commissioners a preliminary cost estimate for the construction. Rather than going through it item by item, I will say that engineering and permitting and planning have all been donated. Virtually all the earthen materials and the culvert have been donated. The outstanding issues that are of significance as far as cost would include the fact that in order to meet requirements, we are going to have to place a railing along portions of the trail in areas where the drop off is either in exceedance of 6 feet or a 2-to-1 slope. And so we have to create approximately 250 feet of steel railing. We are currently working with Colorado Mountain College. We hope to make this a class project for their welding program. We've been talking with Jeff, and he has provided an estimate of material costs, and we hope that this can become a class project, a community project, and that we will get the actual cost of welding and prefabrication of these panels as a volunteer contribution from the college. The other major issues are that we'll need to cover as far as the community or the county cost. We originally had a donation from Trout Unlimited of sedimentation fencing for sediment control as part of the stormwater management plan. CDOT has said that they will no longer accept sediment fencing as a means of sediment control, and have informed us that we have to that we have to install what are called wattles, which are basically a log-shaped item to intercept any sediment that would be from the construction of the project. That's a significant cost to the project. It's about $2,000 that'll have to come out of pocket. Again, I have submitted the cost estimate and am open to any questions. In the essence of conserving time, I'll basically stop at that point and open it to any questions that you might have.
Mike, have you connected with Michael Irwin on the engineering and any other changes that may be since we were out on site last summer?
Mike, I believe I sent you the engineering, as well as I think I've been keeping you in the loop on, for example, the information that we just sent out for the stormwater management plan, et cetera. I have not received any comments back on it at this point.
You know, I am receiving them. I just haven't been able to get any answers back to you right now, but I will take a look at them again and see what we need.
Thank you.
And Mike, the wattles that we're now, well, I'm not sure, Michael, if we have any material that would suffice for that purpose, Michael Irwin. But was that to protect any impact from the outlet of Hayden Pond, or is that for a different drainage concern?
Basically, we have to line the downslope side of the entire length of the trail at this point, and any place where we are proximal to surface water. In other words, all around that pond and around the area where the culvert would be placed. Those we had anticipated because it's an area where we can impact the water quality and sedimentation on waters of the U.S. We have submitted the engineering plans, which show the wattles running the entire length of the trail on the downslope side, even though they enter upland soils. And we've requested a review of that to determine whether the entire length is necessary or not. We have not received a response on that. The cost of the wattles could go down significantly by almost 1,000 linear feet if we don't have to protect the upland soils against sediment
Do my fellow commissioners have any questions for Mike?
I don't think I have anything right now. No.
I don't either. Thanks for the sort of thorough update, on all the different elements.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
I will say, Mike Conlin, this, and I was speaking with Michael this morning on road and bridges or public works annual meeting, typically held in February. Looks like it might be the first week of March here this year. But that is the meeting where they kind of flush out and finalize their workload for the year, and then projecting over the next couple of years too. So I think that as far as I understand, this should be in the queue. And if Michael Irwin needs any more information on timeline, we'll be sure to be in close contact.
Sorry, Sarah, I did just want to, looking at the agenda, there was the question of concern moving forward with potential railway development. So I just want to, if it's timely, I was going to just address that real quick.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, so personally, as one commissioner, I don't have concern. I mean, I have like potential down the road in time concerns, but I think I don't see any reason to hold up this project that's well underway. And I think two reasons for that. One is that it is just potential railroad development. I think everyone I've talked to and heard from, this could be years down the road before there is any activity on that rail line, or it could be never. I mean, there's been rumblings about activating this line, for since it closed. So I don't think it makes any sense to delay this underway project because of that. And second, just sort of anecdotally from the railroad community liaison, their first focus remains on workforce transit between Lake and Eagle. So that first phase likely wouldn't even stretch down to this part of the line. Again, this is sort of very, very preliminary, but again, those are, for me, those are the two reasons not to hold this project up at all.
If I might just add, again, one of those levels of detail that only arises because of the comments made, but at the recommendation of Colorado Department of Transportation, we have informed the Union Pacific Railroad of our intent. We've provided them with the engineering, with the concept paper, et cetera, all of which indicate that we would not touch or do any construction on the railroad right-of-way. One other point that I'd like to make quickly is that you'll notice on the budget a number of columns that are filled in with volunteer. Roger Mutz, our engineer, has designed this whole project to be basically constructed using volunteer labor. He's with Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado, as well as his other roles. And what we're looking at is a project that has been designed, for example, the use of gabions, which can be constructed by volunteers as opposed to solid soil retention techniques. So we're hoping to see this whole trail basically, trail base being shuttled in by wheelbarrow, et cetera. So we hope to reduce any requirements of the county for their time and equipment.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and the crossing agreement should be soon to come. We've got that back to Aurora and scheduling with them in the next week to go over just final terms and language in that agreement, but it's really not, shouldn't be super complicated at all. I think they do have a question on the gabions in that ditch area, but I think they're communicating with you on that. And Commissioner Fiedler, thank you for bringing that up on the railroad. I think that's important to just kind of address at the very onset, and so people aren't questioning, the work being done and pursuing that. And the the trail alignment is well outside of the railway easement as it lays right now. So I don't think we have any other concerns on any conflict with that at the moment. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Marcella.
No, I don't have any questions. I just was going to say thank you for making that acknowledgement and delineation. That was one of my questions. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. And next on the list, and I am trying to get in touch with Howard Tritz. I'm not sure if he had the meeting information, but the Mineral Belt Trail, he has brought to me, and I'll share my screen perhaps so everybody has an idea of where we are talking about here. So Howard Tritz was involved with Mike Conlin on the development of the Mineral Belt Trail some 20 plus years ago. And Howard has been on the Mineral Belt Trail Committee for quite some time and brought this to me last week. Revisited this. Howard has had a long, sorry about that. Long concern over some safety issues down here coming down this the California Gulch stretch of the Mineral Belt. There's a nice incline here, and over on this edge here, Newmont would like to improve safety and manage the tailings that are on the south side of the trail there. Howard would like to gauge the Board of Commissioners' interest or what our thoughts and concerns might be on perhaps working with Newmont to create some sort of barrier or guardrail, if you will, along this side. Now, I wish Howard was here, but Howard's idea is to replicate some sort of cribbing similar to that of what we see up on 5th Street, perhaps. And I believe that his idea is to create that along the south side of the trail. His request to the board, he'd be interested in pursuing grant funding, I don't know from which sources, to explore what that engineering might look like. I will say I guess I will say I'm not sure. I don't think anybody's run off the trail there, but it is quite a incline or a drop off rather from on that side. I have a lot of concern over the what kind of engineering and structural work that would take to build something that I think I am understanding from Howard to be his concept, rather than maybe a more simpler guardrail to be put up. And that also begs the question, and I think I saw on here Amber McGee and Michael Irwin is on here, but you know, would putting anything on this side of the trail cause any problems for maintenance and grooming and plowing of the trail are also some of my questions. With that, I will stop and see if the board has any other thoughts or questions on the idea.
I don't think I have anything outside of what you had asked, but I am curious about those impacts to grooming and trail maintenance. And I don't know if you'd said this, but does Howard have any information on the associated cost with that at all?
No, his request to the board, or he wanted to get feedback on any kind of blessing on pursuing grant funding for the engineering and feasibility of this. Again, I guess I'm wondering where they would go to seek that funding and how that might compete with other priorities that we currently have. I will say too, I spoke with Michael Irwin at Public Works about this morning a little bit, and I thought Michael had a great thought that might kind of be a good compromise here. Newmont does want to, for all intents and purposes, kind of level these areas of cribbing that are falling apart. You know, they're concerned that it'll fall in the roadway, in the right of way of the county road there. And Michael had thought that we work more closely with Newmont to potentially step up the grading of this section with that earthwork that's being proposed by Newmont. I thought that might be a really great solution to kind of decreasing the drop off from the trail, and improving safety a bit.
That makes sense. So then what would be the role that we would play in that? Would we have to like we would coordinate the work on behalf of the Mineral Belt Trail Committee?
For engineering feasibility, Kayla?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I think the idea is just to, if we think it's a project worth pursuing, I mean, we can certainly, I might ask Howard to give us ideas of what funding they might go after to get this kind of assessment done. But the Mineral Belt Trail had come to the board in the last few years regarding the pursuit of funding for the additional loops on the Mineral Belt Trail that they've been developing conceptually, at which point we had some conflicting projects and we had directed them not to necessarily pursue, any additional loops on the Mineral Belt. And another comment there was that we really didn't have a lot of security on the current maintenance and or the grooming of the trail that we do have. So I think, if we want to share any concerns with Howard, or direct him, let him know that maybe this is the better avenue to pursue as far as working with Newmont and then seeing what the result of that project might be with any earthwork that's done there. That might be a first step. I really am just, I don't know what funding sources he would go after. And I think that it would be, I don't know. I think it's a lot bigger of an engineering project than the Mineral Belt Trail Committee might be thinking it would be. I don't know if we have any comments on those who have experienced some of that, but.
Sarah, and I was just going to say, I agree with like the questions you're asking. I mean, that question of whether it's competing for other priorities, both in terms of funding sources for this kind of, recreational asset work, but also like our own bandwidth in the county. But then also that thought, I mean, if work is going to be going on there, working closely with Newmont to whatever they do to level that, falling down cribbing and other stuff they're concerned about, which I appreciate them doing. Anything we can do to make that, less of just a single precipice drop off and do any earthwork as part of that seems like a good interim step for sure.
May I offer a couple of observations?
Please, Mike, that'd be great.
When we designed the trail, you got to realize it's been over 20 years since the trail was designed and laid out. a lot of things have changed. And what I'd like to say is that if I was working on this trail today to be in compliance with ADA, AASHTO, International Building Code, et cetera, I would have to provide a railing along that entire length. We didn't have to back then, but we actually had a plan for that, and we had purchased materials for fencing along the entire outside edge of that. I'm not sure, it came after my involvement, but that material was used for something else and the fence was never installed. But if you were trying to permit that project today, and if you're trying to get grant funding from state or federal sources, you would have to have a guardrail of some form. And regarding the width restrictions for plowing, maintenance, et cetera, you can't just take and put a railing along the outside edge and hope to hold the integrity of the slope below. The idea of cribbing would actually add additional width, and you could have the room that you need for maintenance and plowing, plus a rail along the outside edge of the cribbing so that you would meet requirements. So just an observation, but you know, it had originally been planned with fencing. The fencing had been acquired and was stockpiled, and then for some reason it got used on another project and was never available for completion of that. So just an observation.
Mike, this is Amber. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on if we are to go and do, whether it's cribbing or railing or something near the trail, is that going to trigger us to need to meet current ADA guidelines? Or do you think that would only be if we touched the trail itself?
I don't really have an informed observation on that. I think that since it's already in place, that this would be an improvement. I don't think that it would affect ADA compliance at this point. It's only meant to be an improvement on what we already have.
Okay, and the only reason I ask is because I know sometimes even like at our playgrounds, when we start to make changes, it triggers that need to make it ADA compliant when we make those improvements. So I think that's something we would want to check into here is, by doing this work, does it trigger any other things that would need to be addressed?
Excellent point.
Okay, so it seems like maybe the best next steps are including the Mineral Belt Trail in conversations with Newmont and developing a plan for that area in general, and maybe working from there and seeing what the combination of the groups, the collaboration, what we come up with before just jumping to perhaps pursuing a study on a site that will very well likely not to even, look the way it does after that work is done. So perhaps those are the best next steps to have those conversations and come back to the board. Does that sound good with my fellow commissioners?
Yeah, I think that sounds very reasonable.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. Okay. And again, I apologize for Howard's absence here. I know he's probably spaced the day or something, so he'll be kicking himself, but I'll give him an update. All right, and we have Adam Beh here from the Central Colorado Conservancy, along with Ben Length from the Colorado Open Lands. And we are gonna get an update on the Andrick property acquisitions south in the southern part of the county along the Arkansas, and move into a couple of other conversations perhaps about the development of management on those properties. Adam, I do have a couple of those, the maps or other information if you'd like me to share. So please just let me know and go ahead and take it away. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think maybe the map is really just kind of the most useful one to follow along. Thank you to Commissioner Mudge for extending this invitation to me to present this to you all. I know Sarah's had some conversations with some folks on this call, but I don't want to assume everyone knows all of the details of this project. So I do want to talk a little bit about the historical context, the origins of this. It's very timely. We've got Mike Conlin on the call as well, as one of those folks who was there at the beginning and helping set up this project. And then thank you, Ben, for coming on. He's my counterpart at Colorado Open Lands, the entity, the organization that would hold the conservation easement for these properties. So quickly, the backstory on this. This is well over a 10-year old project from what I understand. And it really came out of a number of discussions from the Lake County Open Space Initiative collaborative meetings, of which my predecessor, Andrew Mackey, was a part of. When LaCosi was going through a lot of conservation priority setting, I identified a string of private properties that you're seeing here on the map, running from Two-Bit Gulch down to the county line, south of the county line, along the river, along Highway 24, as being priority areas that needed to be protected, as well as also providing some public access to those spaces. The Conservancy, as the local land trusts represented in that group, I believe perhaps one of the few organizations who could actually hold land. We do a lot of conservation easements, but we've got some fee title properties as well. Andrew stepped up and said, "Yeah, we'll try and make this happen." So we agreed to take the lead and work with one landowner who was also a part of those early discussions, and went about purchasing 8 of those properties there, and that's the ones you will see in the red boxes, except for, I believe, parcel I at the top is a property that we own. That's the 12-acre Taylor parcel, I believe. But John Andrick went out and bought 8 of those properties. 7 of those are in his name and 1 in his late wife's name. We went out and raised close to $1.6 million for the purchase and conveyance of the easements and all the due diligence work that is required for this. Thank you, Lake County, for contributing $30,000 to that effort. You are already a partner on this, as Sarah's been very active in the LaCosi meetings since I've been on board the last year and a half. The GOCO is also in for about $500,000 to fund this, and the important other big contributor here is the NRDA trustees, and who are in there for about $750,000. A pretty big deal. So just know that California Gulch money, that Superfund money, we're trying to funnel this way. The primary objectives, again, protection from development of this in this canyon, while protecting the Arkansas River, of course, moving over the last several decades from dead fishing zone to gold medal. It's obviously an important resource for everyone in Lake County, not to mention those of us a little bit further downstream. So protecting that area from development, centered on the river, but then providing public access, mostly for fishing and passive recreation uses, wildlife viewing. Some of you have been down that area. I know there's some bighorn sheep that come roaming around through there, but just really trying to provide another space for public access focused on the river. In this arrangement, the Conservancy would be the landowner. Once we purchased from John, Colorado Open Lands would hold the conservation easement, and our original plan was to have Colorado Parks and Wildlife manage the public access component of that. Both the Conservancy and Open Lands, or I can really only speak for the Conservancy. I don't know all of the Open Lands portfolio, but we're not land managers. That's not exactly the business that we want to get into. We would rather collaborate with those agencies and entities that do that stuff for a living. So CPW was a part of those discussions on the public access side. We've gotten to a point where some of the regulations and restrictions that come with how they want to manage those properties is maybe not the most acceptable for us, and maybe going against the original intent of this project. We do not want to restrict use to only those with hunting and fishing licenses, and that's kind of where we're at. It's a bit exclusive for our tastes. So we are looking for other groups to collaborate with as it relates to management of this space. So I guess there's a quick update on where we are with the project today, but this is really a proposal to this group and to the county to see if there's any potential or interest to take on a bit of a management role here, knowing that at the end of the day, this is a $1.6 million project with 160 acres of prime real estate on 2 miles of the Arkansas River, and the county does not need to get involved on the actual ownership side or management of the easement, but just managing the access to that. I'm not sure within the county, if there is a history or sort of some movement in developing these sort of open space initiatives or parks program. But I feel that the potential to step in and be a key partner on the management side could be pretty attractive for the county. And so that's what I had been chatting with Sarah about back and forth a little bit, and tossed around a few ideas of what could be possible there. There is a key piece here that this is a forever type of agreement. We enter into a strong relationship and partnership with Open Lands here as the landowner, that we are going to agree to the terms of the conservation easement in perpetuity. Ben and his crew agreed to providing stewardship support for the life of forever, for perpetuity as well. And so it's something to consider on the Lake County government side if politics change, people change in these positions, but to explore the potential for a very long-term collaborative arrangement for management would be not a trivial point to discuss here. But I know that there is a hard stop at 2, and some folks might have some really important questions to ask here to get more context and see what I'm presenting. So I did want to open that up, but that's the quick nutshell version. Ben, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on anything to close that out, but I do want to leave that there for you all to bat around and discuss for a bit.
Yeah, thanks. I don't have much to add except for that Colorado Open Lands is similar to the Central Colorado Conservancy. We're a statewide land trust. We've partnered with about a dozen counties in different capacities, and we stand here ready to support the community, the county, and the land trust with this project and the development and management of open space like this. So I'm just in a support role here, but I'm really glad to be part of the conversation.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks so much, Adam. I think I will definitely hope to hear from the board too on questions, but I think the one question I have is, what you said, the management of the access to these parcels, just for clarity also for folks, these aren't developed. There are no other additionally built features, and is it part of the agreement that these kind of remain that way? And what are some of those responsibilities in the management?
Yeah, great question, Sarah. Absolutely. We are not interested in developing that site. There are 2 access points to get to these properties, and that's from Cobe at the northern end, and then Granite, the southern end. That access from Granite along the old stage road would, I don't think you can even get to that southernmost property there. So I mean, you do have some already some zoning assistance just by virtue of geography on this. And so managing the public access, if we're talking about fishing and there was some original discussions, we left a little bit of wiggle room in there for hunting. That's something that we can discuss as a group if you wanted that as close to the highway as it is. But managing fishing, I mean, that involves licenses and checking those licenses. So some discussion with CPW on how that would be managed. Again, we're not in any sort of patrolling or enforcement type of role here. That's why we were looking to an agency like CPW to take that on, and we would look to Lake County for that as well. The recent discussions related to this railway have brought another kind of awareness of a potential conflict there, where once these areas are promoted as a protected place that has public access, there could be parking along Highway 24 and folks going across that railway. That would be something we would surely want to think about how to manage that and have the appropriate enforcement behind that. That is not the Conservancy, that is not Colorado Open Lands. I would think, really that part of the management, the people management, would be what I would be interested in exploring with the county. You have support from the Conservancy and Open Lands, who have done various habitat stewardship, enhancement, restoration activities there. All of that kind of stuff. You'll have the strong partnership to draw on, but just taking on that patrolling and enforcement piece would be key. I don't know if that elaborated a bit for you, if that helped.
No, I think that's helpful. Commissioner Fiedler, Commissioner Marcella, do you have any questions for Adam or things to throw out there for following conversations?
Oh, you touched on the question that I had, so I don't have anything else to ask. Thank you.
Yeah, I had one clarifying question on, so like I think you used the word enforcement, like, I guess one is like, could you say again, enforcement of what?
So depending on the terms of our agreement, the types of activities that are permitted there,
Okay, so
managing that, I mean,
no
conflicts,
no campfires or camping or what, that kind. Okay, so
right.
But we're not becoming like checking fishing licenses or I guess the question is sort of want to make sure we're not promising to enforce something we don't sort of have the authority or knowledge to enforce.
Right.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that was good. What, I guess another question, and again, sorry if you said this at the top, what's your timing on an answer from us?
Yeah, so we currently have a contract with John Andrick and Linda Andrick's estate there, the property owners currently, that expires on March 31st. It's a quick, that's right around the corner. We have extended that contract a couple of times with John, and it's perhaps, he'll stay in the game for a bit longer if we need to push that out. But that is probably the most immediate timeline that's out there right now. With the due diligence stuff with our funders and GoCo, we've been through all of that, so the closing could happen pretty quick. So I know that's a pretty quick timeline for this group. Things have changed recently, and I'm taking this opportunity to present to you now. So.
And Adam, the agreement or the management agreement needs to be in place for the closing on the properties?
It would be, yeah. And
Okay.
that's a condition of the trustees' money. We have a template already in place mimicked from CPW and their public access easements.
Okay. Yeah, I think, with as much recreation impact that we've seen, and I know we haven't renewed our sheriff's office agreement with the Forest Service that we typically have. But I think overall probably begs a question to have a conversation with the board on, what our role needs to look like as far as recreation management and monitoring across the county with partners. So I think that piece is going to be a big aspect to this conversation. I am sorry that we don't have too much more time to dive into it now, but I do appreciate you and Ben coming, Adam, and kind of planting the seed with us and giving us some of the information. I know Adam's been very responsive and easy to reach, so if my fellow commissioners need to reach out for more questions, definitely do so. And perhaps we can, follow this up at a next work session or another meeting.
Can I ask one thing just on that, like sort of a request for information or help finding information? I was just curious, like both what skill set would a person need? Like, like if there was a staff person in the county doing this enforcement and checking this, I mean, do they need a law enforcement background or a wild, or a rec, I'd be curious if you have any thoughts on that. And then also, I mean, during the summer, is this like a daily, more than daily, once a week, just like some kind of parameters for kind of the capacity and skill set we're looking at here?
Yeah, I think as far as the rate of patrolling or, what that schedule would look like, I think that's, sit down and hash that out a bit more and anticipate the type of use that you're going to see. I think certainly a skill set and rec management or natural resource background of some kind for a ranger type of position. I'm not sure if this individual would need to be sort of the traditional post-certified, that level of ranger. I mean, the seasonals can go out and enforce regulations without firearms and all of that. So I would kind of trend towards that route, just given your users that you would expect out there.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think, Sarah had raised that, it's obvious we definitely need, if there's the interest is pushed down the road, then we should talk about those, the details of the expectations, put them down on paper, what that would be for the county on the people management side of things. And, happy, I put my number up in the chat. I'm happy to talk with anyone individually or as a group to get through some of that stuff. So thanks for raising that, Sarah.
Thank you for joining us today. I definitely think it's worth us putting on a subsequent agenda to further the discussion.
Great. And so I did send you, Sarah, the actual proposal that was approved by the trustees. It's not a real thick document, but it can also provide some background to how this project came to be and our key priorities for the landscape. So, please feel free to shop that one around so people can look at it, and I'll give you some good context as well. So thank you.
Okay. Excellent, thanks. Yeah, I will be, I'll be also speaking with the Forest Service in the next few days. And I think, again, that enforcement and monitoring piece is something that we're all going to be challenged with. So I think it's, you know, even a broader conversation than just on these parcels. But that can help us figure out, you know, what we're looking at. But thank you. Yeah, thanks again. We're coming up on 2 o'clock. We do have another meeting to get into. Thanks for following the timeline to our guests. Any other comments from staff, commissioners, guests?
No,
Just-
thank you.
All set?
Just one
I-
quick comment, and that is on the issue of enforcement. The biggest issue you're going to run into, the river is so accessible from the road, visually, physically, but it requires crossing the railroad tracks to get to the river from Highway 24. Your biggest issue is going to be people parking on those pullouts and crossing the railroad tracks. That's an enforcement issue that I would believe would fall to local law enforcement.
Commissioner Fiedler?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, all. Well, thanks for the time today. And Adam and Ben will be in touch. Mike, I will let you know on Aurora feedback on that agreement. And we'll get together with Public Works on Newmont and the Mineral Belt development. And with that, if there's nothing else from my fellow commissioners. Okay.
All good.
All right. At 1:57, we will adjourn.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much.